to the crisis of the American Union in the 1850s is extremely useful because it brings us back to the example of statesmanship par excellence in the American regime, that of Abraham Lincoln. Prior to his presidency, Lincoln spent years persuading Americans about the injustice of slavery and the importance of the principles of the American founding to their lives. Now, this is important because he recognized that public sentiment in a republic is everything. Whoever can control public opinion controls lawmaking, controls the political process as a whole. In our own time, we have largely two political parties that are committed to fundamentally, irreconcilably different understandings of justice and the role of government. We have a Democratic Party, a left, that is committed to an ever-expanding state, to identity politics. And on the other hand, we have a Republican Party which, at least in the sense that the Republican Party exists within the heartland of America, you might say, a Republican Party that is committed to the idea that the government is too big, that identity politics is destroying the country, and that we need to get back to something more approximating the original regime created by America's founding fathers. As long as you have those two things, you really don't have a lot of middle ground. So now, we're in a position to ask ourselves, when the left in America talks about bipartisanship and getting things done, civility, what do they really mean? I think what they really mean is this: the partisanship, the misbehavior, and the radicalization of the left is to be ignored or downplayed. And conservatives need to stop being conservatives so that both parties can work together to enact progressive legislation in a whole variety of ways, economic, social, and so that the regulatory process of transforming America can proceed apace. And this is something, to get back to our example of 1858, that Lincoln fully understood and appreciated. In his Cooper Union speech in 1860, he says, "We Republicans are no harm to slavery in the states where it exists. We've never done anything to the Southerners in those states. We've never planned to do anything. We've always promised to respect them. And yet, we're still in this conflict." And he says, what will satisfy them? Right? Knowing what we've done and what we've said and that it's been insufficient, what will satisfy them? And he says in that speech, this and this only: cease to call slavery wrong and join with them in calling it right. In other words, we must abandon our beliefs and go over to their side. We must become progressives. We must become liberals. That will satisfy them. And we must do so, again, getting back to Lincoln, we must do so with all the zealousness of converts. We must fully abandon and repudiate our own beliefs. We must denounce them. Silence will not be tolerated, and merely acquiescence will not be tolerated. We must profess the new faith of progressive liberalism and the modern state, and ignore constitutionalism, the laws of nature and nature's God, and what we until recently used to call conservatism. Maybe we still do. The Republican Party, the right, is always expected to compromise on its principles, or else they are denounced as obstructionists. Compromise never means that the left gives ground. It always means that the right abandons its ground. No one argues that progressives should cease being progressives.